From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. It's Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Not forget the Junior. Very important, remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that
fire content.
Also, hello to the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. Stay here. Love it here. We have a lot of programming here, and there's only more and more to come. So thank you for watching us here on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. All right, Andre, it's the weekend. It's here. Busy Friday, really busy Friday. You and I both had to deal with some stuff outside of work today that ended up being a little bit of a hectic Friday leading up to what's going to be a busy night in the city here with prep football, but obviously a busy weekend up ahead. Saints are already in Seattle. They went up Thursday night, got a practice in on Friday out on the West Coast. They will play on Sunday. The going up a day early is normal. What's not normal is going up essentially 2 days early to get a practice in a different location, kind of break up the work week. That I am not used to that. Usually it's the whole week or a day early. I'm not used to 2 days early going up. So the Saints and Kellen Moore decided to go up a little bit early, get one practice in on the West Coast, different time zone. If you ever made that flight, it's a long one, and it's a long way away from home. So they want to get used to that as much as possible. So on that note, I can understand it. But the truth of the matter is they have a game to play. It's going to be a difficult game, their first game on the road, and they've already kind of out of routine with how they handle this first road trip, but nonetheless, Saints Seahawks on Sunday. So we're going to get into that. Can they win it? We'll see. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Like you said, crazy day. A lot of tires going out today.
I had to deal with it too.
But, we both made it here. And ultimately, now we can look forward to what I think will be a really good game on Sunday. You've got the 0-2 Saints, the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks. Both teams dealing with injuries, and we'll touch on those injuries later.
Yeah.
Both teams dealing with a lot of change from, new coaching staffs and entirely new staff here with the Saints. Yeah. The Seahawks dealing with a lot of new faces as well, including former Saints offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. They've got a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. The Saints figuring out the whole quarterback thing, riding with Spencer Rattler. We're going to get to all of that. But first of all, Sean, we got to talk about the biggest thing, the thing that matters most at the end of the day, wins and losses. Before the season, both of us looked at this game, and I believe both of us said the Saints would lose it when we looked at it when the schedule released. Where we are now, have we changed our mind? Do you think the Saints can win this game against the Seahawks?
I think it's the NFL. It's any given Sunday. The talent disparity is not, even amongst the best and the absolute worst, is not that far in the NFL. I tell people this all the time. So it would not be some crazy thing for them to go up to Seattle as an 0-2 team that lost both games by one possession and defeat a 1-1 ball club that lost their first game by one possession and obviously were able to go on the road with an impressive win against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week on the road. They got their first win. So can they do it? Of course they can. It's the NFL. This is not college football, like we've said a couple times. This is not, Michigan versus Central Michigan. This is, Saints versus Seahawks. A couple reasons why. And some of it doesn't even have to do with the Saints. Remember, Sam Darnold has had a career resurgence. But Sam Darnold is also the quarterback that can fall into some of the worst funks you will ever see and will gift wrap a game for his opponent with bad decision, bad throw after bad decision, bad throw. He's on his, sixth team maybe?
Yeah.
You talk about the Jets, the Panthers,
the Vikings,
the 49ers, the Vikings,
49ers.
Seahawks, fifth, maybe more. I don't know. I may have lost a team in there. So that's point number one. I mean, it is always possible. Defensively, you are confusing a quarterback enough to where you can make some game-changing plays by taking the ball away multiple times. And this quarterback in particular, when he slumps hard.
Yeah.
He slumps hard. So that's always there. It wouldn't be some crazy outlier if he had a multiple interception day. In fact, he threw 2 interceptions last week in their victory. So if Sam Darnold has a game like that, they're not good enough in other areas to to win the game. So if the Saints were given that opportunity with 2 or 3 picks, they better take advantage. Because I think that you wouldn't need a whole lot offensively in that scenario to go and win the game. Number 2, Spencer Rattler, if he can stay within himself, which I think he's done a pretty good job of doing the first 2 weeks. Stay within himself. What do I mean by that? They used a really good analogy this week. 3-pointers and layups, 3-pointers and layups. Hit your layups, hit your layups, hit your layups. Haven't been as many 3-pointers, but there's been plenty of layups, and he's done a good job of hitting them. Yeah. That's why his completion percentage is high. That's why they've stayed relatively ahead of the sticks. That's why he's been pretty clean, pretty efficient. You could tell he's got it in his head. If what I want isn't there, I'm hitting my layup. That's a good thing, and he's avoided the big mistake in that regard. Avoiding the big mistake is going to give you a chance at the end. If everything else goes well, you're just avoiding the big mistake, the Saints will have a chance in the end, essentially like they did the first 2 weeks. Yeah. What's different about this week? Well, it's a little easier to hit your layups at home. It's a little easier to do certain things at home from an offensive communication standpoint than on the road. It's going to be much louder, so the challenge gets greater. It's also week 3, which means tape is starting to catch up to teams. We'll see who has the ultimate advantage when it comes to that. I think early on, the lack of tape on the Kellen Moore-led Saints was going to be an advantage. We'll see if that's starting to wear off a little bit by week 3. Usually by week 4, week 5, you can see that. But if Spencer Rattler stays within himself and avoids the big mistake, even if he doesn't make the big throw, I still think they could have a chance to be in it at the end. The other thing, we talked about it. Early lead, early lead, early lead. I know they weren't down by a lot at any point in the game last week. I think that most of them were down was 12 maybe, when it was 26-14. But they didn't lead at all at any point in the game. Against Arizona, they only led for 4 minutes. Get a lead. Play with the lead for a couple possessions. It changes the flow and the feel and the confidence in certain play callings when you have a lead and you're doing certain things versus you're not chasing points, but you feel like you got to catch up. Early lead. And also, this is true in any walk of NFL, college football, high school football. When you go to a hostile environment, physicality travels. Physicality travels. What does that mean? That means be stout up front on defense and pound the rock. If you are able to run the football successfully, I think you will have a chance in the end. I am not predicting the Saints' victory, Andre. I am not going to do that. I don't know if they're there yet, and I think this is going to be a very tough place to play. And I think a lot of people are going to be doing things for the first time in a hostile environment, and including the head coach. But I do think if they are able to at least hit those checkpoints, you'll see another competitive game by the Saints in Seattle. What about you?
I think it's a winnable game, just like week 1 and week 2 were. Because when I look at this Seattle Seahawks team, I don't see a juggernaut at all. I was watching Richard Sherman on commentary for the broadcast on Thursday night. He won't be running out of that tunnel on Sunday.
LOB.
Yep. No Russell Wilson. He's up in New York. He won't be running out the tunnel on Sunday. Marshawn Lynch, who knows what he's doing, but I know he won't be running out the tunnel on Sunday. When I look at the Seattle Seahawks team, to me, they're average. They're an average football team, a middle-of-the-road football team. You look at any team metric, offensive yards, middle of the road, points scored, middle of the road, passing, middle of the road, rushing, middle of the road. You want to go to defense, points, passing yards allowed, rushing yards allowed. They're all middle of the road in every metric so far this season. Their quarterback, Sam Darnold, middle of the road quarterback. I think he's an average quarterback. Kenneth Walker, he's a good running back, but we touched on injuries, and we're going to get to that later. They're without Zach Charbonnet. Yeah. Zach Charbonnet is a big part of that offense. He's the young back with a little bit of explosiveness to him, and he's the versatility in that running back room. He's the pass catcher. He's the guy that gives that offense another dimension that they won't really have on Sunday against the Saints. The wide receiver room, ain't no way around that. That's tough.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith-Njigba's really good. Cooper Kupp, we've seen what he can do in this league. The wide receiver room is tough. They have individual playmakers on the defensive side, but again, they may be without an all-pro cornerback, and another one of their starting safeties could be out. He missed last week. So knowing all of that and looking at this game for the New Orleans Saints, it's very winnable because when I look at the first 2 weeks of the season, the Saints have been better than I thought they would be. At the beginning of the season, I didn't think that they would be as good as they were these last 2 weeks. They're sitting at 0-2, and we touched on it on Wednesday. They could easily be 2-0. None of the games that they've lost have been like blowouts or anything. They lost to a Cardinals team that they had an opportunity to drive down the field and either tie or win the game. They couldn't get it done. They lost to a San Francisco team without their starting quarterback that they had 2 opportunities at the end of the game to go down the field, score a touchdown, and leave with a win. They couldn't do it. So they're 0-2, but they could very easily be 2-0 because they lost 2 very winnable games. And to me, when I look at this schedule, when I look at this Seahawks team, it's another winnable game, you know. And when it comes to injuries, both sides are feeling it. We'll touch on the Saints injuries in a minute. I already touched on a few of the Seahawks injuries, but at the end of the day, this is one of those games, if you want to be a good team, you got to go out and win it. Spencer Rattler, he's going to be healthy. Alvin Kamara is healthy. Your O-line is banged up, but your D-line minus Chase Young, and Cam Jordan's done a pretty good job filling in for Chase Young so far. Your D-line is healthy. Your linebackers are healthy. Your secondary is fine. If you're the Saints, I called it a potential statement last week. I said, you're going against the backup quarterback. That's a winnable game. Go out and win it. You're going on the road against Seattle. Kellen Moore, you want your first win as a head coach. I know Spencer Rattler's tired of hearing people say 0-7, 0-8, 0-9, 0-10. Get your first win in the NFL. This is an average team that they're going against in the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is a winnable game. I want the Saints to go out and win it. Do I think they will? I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction and say I think that the Saints lose this game because at the end of the day, we haven't seen them do it yet. We've seen them in several winnable situations, and we haven't seen them able to close the deal. And that's at home, where it's easier. So
I wasn't being rude when I grabbed my phone. I wanted to, because we have the monitors on and our newscast is going on, and I see the weather, and it just dawned on me because this will be my third trip to Lumen Field. I went twice in 2013. The Monday night game where the Saints, I mean, they were just so overwhelmed by the atmosphere. That year, that was when Seattle was really cooking. This year they won the title, Super Bowl, and then I went back to the playoffs that year. They were much more prepared, but that 2013 Monday night game was it was like a brisk night. It wasn't anything crazy, but that playoff game was one of the most miserable games I had ever done because we had to do a 3-hour pregame show. Oof. And Seattle, if you've never been there, it's consistent rain, and it's this kind of swirly, like light, just nagging mist. It just kind of keeps going and going and going, and it was cold. Our former sports photographer, Edwin Good, it was the only time I've worked with him for 15 years. The only time he literally had to walk from behind the camera and go and get under like kind of where the concourse was to warm up a little bit because he was damp and wet. His hands got too numb. So I wanted to check the weather here, and I went again in 2019 when Drew got hurt. We stayed up there all week. It was another messy game. It was an ugly game, a lot of rainy game, but it was in September, so it wasn't quite as bad. The temperature Sunday is going to be high of 66, low of 54, 40% chance of rain. That's about as good as you're going to get in Seattle. Yeah. Okay, that's about as good as you're going to get for a daytime game in Seattle. So check another advantage for the Saints, or check another break you're catching, because I've been there. It is a hard place to play regardless, but that weather, it can get really nasty. Matter of fact, that Monday night game in 2021, when they won with Jameis, another ugly weather type game, but it was something they were able to manufacture enough to get the win. So there's a lot there that a normal trip to Seattle would be, you would have to deal with on a normal trip to Seattle that perhaps the Saints are going to be able to bypass just from, it's early in the season, weather's comparable, you're getting up there early, you might be catching them at the right time because it is early in the season. So all in all, it's back to the big picture question. Is this a winnable game for the Saints? It absolutely is. I think they can win this game, but I'm like you. I cannot predict the Saints' victory right now. I need to see a little more before I can go there with the Saints over Seattle.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game, and I would like to see the Saints go out and win a tight game. The problem is I can't predict that because I have not seen the Saints under Spencer Rattler go out and win a tight game. But like you said, it's a good situation for them to be in because Seattle, it's also early in the season for them. They're getting used to being with a new quarterback in Sam Darnold, a new offensive coordinator, include Clint Kubiak. You've got a lot of defensive players that have kind of been a mainstay on that side of the ball, especially in the secondary, that they're going to be without. So if you're Seattle, this is not a good week for them. Just like last week wasn't a good week for the San Francisco 49ers. The Saints go in, get the job done. I mean, in Seattle, it could easily be 22 and storming, 22 degrees and storming out there. Just sticky
cold
and nasty.
and wet and damp and miserable and loud. I'm telling you, that playoff game was an experience, was an absolute experience. It was like, this is difficult, and they managed to stay within that game. But that is a very difficult place to play.
Yeah, and even if you look at Seattle's first 2 games this season, they lost to the 49ers, 17-13, in a game where
they were at home.
They were at home, and their defense couldn't get off the field. The 49ers had the ball 38 minutes to Seattle's 22.
Yeah.
Then in week 2, they win a big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they had that fluke touchdown in the back of the end zone because on the kick return, the Steelers' rookie running back, Caleb Johnson, didn't understand, I guess, the new kickoff rules, which led to kind of a fluky touchdown in the end zone. And I'm not exactly sold on Pittsburgh as a great team, so they struggled against the Niners, which I guess to their credit, the Niners were healthier in week 1 than they were in week 2 when the Saints played them, but they struggled against the Niners, and they beat a Pittsburgh team that I'm not super sold on. I'm not very impressed when I look at the Seahawks in the state that they're currently in. I think the Saints would win, but to talk about this game, Sean, you really can't tiptoe around the injuries, which both teams are dealing with. What's the injury situation right now with the Saints?
We'll get the official here. By the time you watch this, it may have already be out, but haven't sent the official yet. But Kellen Moore spoke and told us who is going to be out. Chase Young is out. Dylan Radins is out. Okay. Obviously, it's big because Chase Young, this is now he injured himself in practice week 1, so before week 1.
Right.
So do the math. What is that, 3 weeks?
Yep.
That's something to watch because this might be lingering a little bit longer than perhaps they thought it would. I thought it'd be 2 weeks and he'd be back. So for it to be week 3, that's something to monitor because by next week would be week 4. If he's not ready by then, I mean, you could have went IR, which could have helped you with some roster moves in other areas. Right. So Chase Young, and I think they're going to need Chase Young at some point. Right now, you're in the window with Cam where it's early in the season and he can still be very effective. But I think as the season goes on, you're going to need more than just Cam off the edge and Carl Granderson. So Chase Young missing is important because look, that might be your most dynamic player on defense, and he has yet to be available. So that's tough. Dylan Radins is interesting because Trevor Penning is listed as questionable, or did he officially say questionable? But basically, Trevor Penning is trending towards. He's been limited all week, so we don't know if he's officially listed as questionable yet. But if Radins can't go, you sure hope Trevor Penning can go, because if he can't go and Penning can't go, well, then who you turn to? Is it Torrey Simpkins? I think that certainly feels like the guy that might be him. And then there's the other question, Ataliese Fuaga. He looked by the end of that game. Like it looked like he couldn't handle it anymore. That last play where Rattler got sacked, I mean, he's so slow out of his stance. He can't anchor. It's a wide rush. Major problem. So I'm wondering if it's almost in their best interest to not have Fuaga go because he was so banged up, and maybe just take the week off to get better. But who goes if he can't go? Is it Richards? Asim Richards? Is it Xavier Truss, who's more of an interior player? So that's where I would be concerned, because if that is indeed the case, if Fuaga can't go, then you got to play a backup, whoever that may be. Plus, you probably got to bump up a practice squad guy on the standard elevation to cover yourself, because you're going to need a backup tackle. If your starter's out, the backup becomes a starter, and who's going to back up to that player in a game? So that becomes a major issue. And then the one that is disappointing, because it's another one that happened in practice. Devon Vele apparently had some kind of hip issue during practice on Thursday. We'll see the official status for Friday. If he went full go, if he was limited. Again, we haven't gotten the full one yet. Maybe we'll get it in the midst of this podcast. But man, if he can't go, I really liked his. I only had one catch, but he's had 3 targets, a first down, a touchdown, and a pass interference call. You can just tell as soon as he gets up to speed on the offense, he's going to be a major factor. Yeah. That size is that size. So that would be disappointing if he can't go. Even more disappointing that it would have happened due to something happening in practice.
The theme.
Again, this was a problem all last year. So if that ends up being the case, man, I don't know what they got to do to reevaluate the practice setup, but this is overlapped coaching staffs here. This is something they have to take a look at. So we'll see how the final injury report shakes out. We'll see when the actives come out, but this is always a big deal. Who's available, who's not available? Because, look, you could potentially, if Fuaga's healthy and Penny goes, you could have your starting 5 for the first time all year.
Yeah.
Which could be a good thing. Now, if one of those guys can't go, you'll have 4 out of 5. If both can't go, you'll have 3 out of 5. That's obviously an issue. And then I think they were starting to gravitate to Vele. So we'll see how the numbers shake out, but that's definitely something to watch going forward because of not just who's out, but who has to step up if one of those players can't go.
And this is where the injuries to the Will Clapps, the Nick Saldivaris, the Landon Youngs that happened in the preseason really hurt you because if those guys are around, it's maybe not as big of a deal if, Radens goes down, we have a Saldivari that we can plug in. Fuaga's not right, tell him sit out a week. We can plug a Landon Young over there. We can, maybe put Will Clapp over there. You've got options. Now, if you're the Saints, you're starting to run out of options. Now, Dylan Radunz, who was also seen as a depth piece, he's hurt, which isn't a huge deal if Trevor Penning can play. But like you mentioned, if Trevor Penning can't play, now you're looking at a Torricelli Simpkins who, he looked good at times during the preseason, but I don't know if you planned on strutting him out there as your starting.
In Seattle?
Yeah, left guard in Seattle week 3 of the NFL season, Taliesin Fuaga, a tackle, obviously that's a big deal. You want him to be at full strength. Whether he plays or not, he's not going to be at full strength, but can he give you enough to keep Spencer Rattler upright? Devon Vele, size you can't replace. We talked about this receiver room all throughout the preseason about how they all have similar skill sets. Vele was the guy that kind of threw a wrench in that and can do things that nobody else in that receiver room can do. So him being out is a blow. But my biggest thing with the injuries, I'm not using it as an excuse for the Saints.
No.
Because at the end of the day, we can talk about Fuaga, we can talk about Penning, we can talk about Vele, and the Seahawks, can talk about their all-pro cornerback that may not play. They can talk about their starting safety who may not play. They can talk about their running back, Zach Charbonnet. Yeah. Again, a big clog in their offense when it comes to the passing game and the versatility, who we already know Charbonnet will not play. So you got injuries on both sides. And I know a lot of times, you give the team kind of, we were injured. We could have gotten them if we were healthy. I said it on Wednesday. I'm going to say it again. This is the NFL. 32 out of 32 teams, including the 2 that are going to be on the field Sunday, are dealing with injuries. Whether it's your O-line, your receivers, your backs, your secondary, your linebackers, everybody is injured somewhere. Everybody is missing starters somewhere. So, yes, the Saints are injured. The Seahawks are injured. What good teams do, they overcome those injuries. That's what I want to see the Saints do on Sunday because I know Spencer Rattler's going to be out there. Hopefully he'll have his starting 5 for the first time. He may not have his starting 5.
If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, if you don't, you don't. It's not an excuse. You got to get it done. That's what separates the good teams from the bad teams in the NFL. Every team deals with injuries. Every quarterback who's ever played has had to play a game without 1 or 2 of their offensive linemen. What do? You get it done. I said it Wednesday. It is never always going to be perfect.
Never.
In the NFL, you take what you're given, you get it done. I think this is a winnable game for the Saints. I think the Seahawks team is an average team that's worse than I expected them to be a few weeks ago. The Saints are better than I expected them to be a few weeks ago, and a few plays away from being 2-0 instead of 0-2. Obviously, the Saints are still going to be the underdog in this situation, but they're going into Seattle in what's a winnable game. I don't care about the injuries. Both teams are injured.
No, it's pretty.
Get it done.
Yeah. They cancel each other out. I mean, let's be honest. The injuries sort of cancel each other out. But it's funny. Just you cover the league over all these years. It's amazing how certain injuries creep up across the league. I remember that year. It was, you don't hear as much anymore, but it was probably about, maybe it's called something different, about a decade ago. Remember sports hernias were the thing? It was like 3 to 6 weeks, sports hernia. One year there was the broken fibulas had dominated the league everywhere. What is it with this year with the calves and the toes? It is calves and toes. You talk about there's calf injuries everywhere because those are the two like softest sounding injuries, but they just linger and linger and linger. We see it with Joe Burrow. He's out 3 months with a severe toe tear or whatever it is. Raiden's now is dealing with a toe. Penning, we'll see if he plays, has dealt with the toe for 5 weeks now. Chase Young dealing with the calf. McCaffrey was dealing with the calf leading up to their game against the Saints, or actually leading up to the week 1 against the of the season. So it's just funny. It was when you cover the league long enough, it's funny how it all kind of happens in bunches, and one injury seems to take over the entire NFL. We've seen it with sports hernias. We've seen it with torn ACLs, obviously. We've seen it with Achilles. We've seen it with broken fibulas. This year, for whatever reason, it is calves and toes that's taking over the NFL. It's just crazy. It's a little something I wanted to point out because it seems to be happening everywhere in the NFL right now.
Absolutely. Maybe it's just the way that obviously training evolves, just like players evolve, and maybe it's the way that guys are being trained these days. But, it's definitely hurting the Saints, but it's hurting a lot of teams around the league. Going into Sunday, get it done. Spencer Rattler, he's got to take care of the ball. He's done a great job doing that so far this season, but that Seattle secondary is good at taking the ball away. Take care of the ball. Commit to Alvin Kamara if you're Kellen Moore, like you did week 2 against the Niners. Defense, situational football. Get off the field on 3rd downs. Don't give up touchdowns like you did against Christian McCaffrey at the end of the half that really turned that game. Situational football on both sides of the ball, and they can leave Seattle with a win.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is the winnable one off this road stretch.
Oh, yeah, because Buffalo.
Because now you got Buffalo off a mini bye
it's
next week.
It's going to be a very different tone.
I don't know if you heard Al Michaels during the game. Like, it's one of the few games they have during the day. So Buffalo's all geeked up for that game, coming off a mini bye, the fan base, Bills Mafia. Next week going to be tough, but we'll learn about that next week.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right, we got to get out of here. Fun one. Enjoy the game. I'll be in Seattle. Check out all of our coverage. Andre Johnson Jr., Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.